Good morning, everyone. I'm back. I'm back with another game, another day, new game. So let's play some Blitz. So in this stream, I'll try to reach 1400, right? म करेन्टली अहिले 1331 मा छु भने 1400 चाहिँ मेरो टार्गेट हो by the end of this stream. So yeah, let's hope आज गेमहरु चाहिँ अलि राम्रोसँग खेलिन्छ भनेर. I have not learned anything new, to be honest. म चाहिँ इन्ट्युसनमा खेलिरहेको छु र पास्ट नलेज अथवा पास्ट एक्सपिरियन्समा सबै गेमहरु खेल्नेवाला छु. नयाँ लर्न भनेको चाहिँ मेरो त एभ्री गेम अनुसार पछि नै छुट्टै छुट्टै हुन्छ. यसमा लिएँ मैले खेलिन्छ यसलाई लिइदिन्छु त्यसलाई लियो भने यसलाई लिइदिन्छु. गल्ती गरेँ कि यसले यहाँ पुस गर्यो भने त म त गएँ त. अलमोस्ट गइसकेँ थिएँ. Personally, he did not push button. Now he'll put here. Oh no. म त ठुलो माछा समात्यो उसले चाहिँ. Oh no. Oh no. I'm in a big mess. I'm in a big mess. I'm in a big mess. पहिलो गेम नै हावा भयो त्यो. त्यही नै हेरी चल्दाखेरि.
direct to consumer. And we see all of these ads on TV. You know the ones I'm talking about.
They're pretty butterflies.
They're going through fields and they're happy and singing songs.
Us in New Zealand, right?
Yeah, and at the end, really, really quickly, it's all about like it could be an antidepressant medication, and at the end, it's like really, really fast. May cause explosive diarrhea, spontaneous combustion, and even suicidal thoughts. You know, Big Pharma, like any special interest, has captured our government. And when it's captured our government on so many levels, not just the three-letter agencies, but it's out in the open how much they're giving to our electeds. And so they are literally putting the profits of Big Pharma over people and our health.
Interesting. There's parts of that I agree with and parts that I disagree with. If you'd like to hear what I agree with is that pharmaceutical companies are absolutely interested in profits. This is a for-profit system.
Right.
It's a capitalist nation. In fact, if you look at our food supply, it's primarily focused on profits instead of trying to keep us healthy. That's pretty much always been the case within the last 50 years or so. When it comes to pharma versus supplements, which is kind of what we were discussing here, because some people say, I don't want to take a pharmaceutical, I'd rather go the natural approach. That is said a lot in terms of the internet. And I think that there's two issues with it. One is that there's this natural fallacy, that just because something's natural means it's safe, and just because something is for profit means it's evil. And that's weird to me because things that are natural can be absolutely dangerous. So like cyanide, arsenic, these are natural phenomena that are absolutely dangerous.
Absolutely.
And things that are for profit, like supplement companies, can be sometimes beneficial. Like if someone has a vitamin D deficiency, I would absolutely tell them to take a vitamin D supplement. The issue is, do you know how big the pharmaceutical industry is in the United States for billions of dollars? If you don't just say,
how many billions of dollars they make?
Yeah.
I don't know.
$600 billion. Crazy sum, right? Do you know how big the Global Wellness Institute says the wellness industry is in the United States?
It's probably bigger than that.
$2 trillion. So why are you only interested in conflicts of interest for pharma when the supplement wellness industry is 3-4x? I'm not great at math off the cuff. So I'm just curious.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because I don't disagree that either. I think, again, going back to my point about eroding the public trust, I think what's happening with what I know about Big Pharma is that they often have board members that sit on boards of the big media like Fox and CNN, but they also sit on the board of the Big Pharma. And so it's that we're worried about because those things are really causing more complications. Like you're taking one big pharmaceutical pill and it's causing 5 other problems and it becomes a sick care system. I can elect to take those other non-FDA approved drugs and I'm choosing that, but I'm being told by my doctors who are also being pushed by Big Pharma to push these options on us. So it's more of a choice for.
Are they forcing you to take those medications?
I mean, when you go to a doctor and you're trying to figure out and you're constantly being bamboozled by you should take this and that and a third, you feel like that's your only option because so we're kind of being programmed that we have to go in that direction. What happens
when you walk into a pharmacy and you walk down the vitamin aisle? What are the words that you see thrown at you?
Like sleeping or
sleeping, health,
energy.
Energy. Sure. What proof do they have to submit in order to sell their supplements?
I would guess nothing.
Me and you, right now, can take whatever supplement we want.
Yeah, it's our choice.
Bottle it up right here. No, bottle it up right here.
Right.
On this table.
And market
in capsules. Market it. Put it in a pharmacy if it sells well, especially if you have lots of followers. Millions of dollars.
Sure you could, but it's still my personal choice as a consumer, and I think it goes back to...
And it's still your personal choice to take pharmaceuticals. No one's forcing you to take pharmaceuticals.
Yes, absolutely, that's true.
But pharmaceuticals at least have to submit something to prove that they work, that they have some safety profile. But what me and you created today, no one has to prove it. And they also have had instances where they've led people to have liver failure, death. They've been sued by the FDA. There's been threatening letters. Consumer Labs goes and tests what's in these supplements and finds out what's on the labels not actually in the pill. Why don't you have an interest in this?
Well, I don't think the doctors are pushing that. If I go to my doctor, they're not pushing all of those supplements and everything.
Yeah, the influencers are. Don't you think that's a bigger problem when it's $2 trillion versus $600 billion?
What?
Appreciate it. evening. Pleasure.
I'm Heidi.
Nice to meet you, Heidi.
Nice to meet you too. So we're talking supplements.
Supplements versus pharma. What do you got?
Okay. What I heard in the last debate is that you feel like doctors don't have the responsibility to teach their patients about supplements. Like if I went to the doctor and I said, "Hey, I heard that magnesium can really help me with cramps," and the doctor would educate me on that, right? Especially if I asked a question.
Sure,
But if I went into the doctor and said, "Listen, I am suffering from these leg cramps that are excruciating. I am screaming to the air at night, and my neighbors are scared of me. What can I do?" Well, I have both, but what do I do? What's your first go-to? Are you going to go towards the pharmaceutical in it, or are you going to hit, maybe magnesium, which it has?
I will present the correct diagnosis pathway. First of all, make sure that is the condition. Because a lot of times the internet guides patients to believe that they have certain conditions that they don't.
Well, cramps are self-explanatory.
Meaning, not the symptom.
Right.
Your symptom is your symptom. I'm no
Right.
expert in that. It's your
Got it.
body.
Yeah.
So the symptom is real. The question is, what is the diagnosis that's leading for that symptom to
Right.
happen? Because some functional medicine doctors tend to take this approach where they say, we look at the root cause where your doctor doesn't. Well, I don't know. I was trained in medical school to always look for the root cause and not just put a bandage on this, because I actually want to help you. So I wouldn't necessarily look to treating your symptom instantly. I would first start an investigative path to figure out why you have said symptom. For restless leg syndrome, one of these lab values that's oftentimes not checked that correlates with restless leg syndrome is anemia.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes supplementing iron in those patients who are anemic could be beneficial to them.
Right.
And guess what? That's an absolute supplement that can help in those situations. But better yet, here's what a good doctor should do. A good doctor should present the options. If there's a pharmaceutical one, if there's a natural one,
I agree.
and ask which one resonates with you.
Well, then why are doctors and big supplement fighting with each other? Why are they against each other?
I'll tell
Why
you.
shouldn't they work?
That's a good
Shouldn't they
question.
work together?
They absolutely should. Here's what happens. If certain supplements start becoming very well proven in research that they work, they just become regular medicine, and we don't even think about them as supplements. Like if
Right.
someone has a vitamin D deficiency or an iron deficiency,
Right.
no one thinks about a doctor prescribing iron or vitamin D, but we do that.
Right.
In fact, there are some rare indications where we use prescription-grade omega-3 medications called Lavazza. So we absolutely do prescribe those. Why we go to war with the supplement company, especially me on my YouTube channel, it's because I feel when our healthcare system screws you over and you're hurt because you were misdiagnosed, not listened to, written off, which I'm sure happens.
Which happens.
They go to you and they pretend like they care to sell you something that is potentially unproven
Well, don't
or
doctors do the
exaggerated.
same thing? Do you just automatically assume all doctors care? Because not all, some doctors get into it just for the money.
I think
You know?
that absolutely can happen. I think it's impossible to judge intention on a huge generality like
Okay.
that. But I think the war, just to answer your question, is that we want people to tell the truth about their supplements, about their pharmaceutical medication. In fact, there's been lawsuits that have been settled with the pharma industry in the 20 teens for $3 billion by GSK. Do you know what that lawsuit was about? Improper branding of the two medications, Paxil and Wellbutrin. These two medications
I
were
remember
improperly
that. I
branded,
remember.
and pharmaceutical companies were held liable.
Okay.
When do the supplement companies
Let
get
me
held
go-
liable when they say you can faster, stronger, better, whatever it is?
I had it too.
Hello, sir. Good to see you.
Okay, so I want to point out something that you did. 600 million to 2 trillion, correct? You stated that the 600 million was the size of the industry in the United States. You compared that to a global number.
No, the global number is 4 trillion. 2 trillion is the U.S. number. If I
It's a
said it
US
wrong.
number. Okay, all right. So I was just going to call you out of it. The other thing I would like to ask, though, is what is the operational definition? I'm assuming that's coming from the research article.
Global Wellness Institute.
Okay, Global Wellness Institute. What I'm asking you is, what is the operational definition? The reason why I'm asking that is because I would bet you dollars to donuts that when they came to defining what a wellness and supplement company is, they threw this wide sweeping net in order to inflate the number. Because when I did the research, it said that the supplement industry in the United States was 10% of what the pharmaceutical industry
That's
was.
accurate.
The other thing for you to said it
Because
wasn't.
the wellness industry isn't just driven by supplements.
Your
and
prompt
wellness-
was big supplement. So is it big wellness or
Well,
big supplement?
big supplement works in tangent with big supplements. Every time you see a wellness influencer, they're not just selling you supplements. They're selling you their courses. They're selling you their get well schemes, the miraculous fixes for whatever is ailing you, and this idea of capturing too many things all at once. When we say that their chronic diseases are significantly higher in children, I think you said that earlier. In the United States, kids are sicker.
Oh yeah, I said that.
Yeah,
Sicker,
that's
yeah, absolutely.
higher
Yeah.
rates of chronic health.
Yes.
Well, part of that is because there are more conditions that are now being counted in that scenario. And if you look at children's mortality, children actively dying per 100,000, actually significantly down over the last 30
So
years.
who created the opioid epidemic? Big Pharma or Big Wellness? And how were they held accountable? Hundreds of thousands of people had died.
Agreed.
They had to give up $7 billion.
Agreed.
I spent 7 years of my life managing drugs.
Why would I? Come on.
All compared to what they did. And you're telling me that they were held accountable? That is absolutely utterly disgusting. So then my question is, just like what you asked this gentleman, if you're over here saying, hey, we need to light a fire, we need to hold Big Supplement accountable, then my question is, are you also investing equal energy in your own time to saying we need to hold Big Pharma accountable?
Absolutely.
In what way?
In every way. Anytime they say something that's inaccurate, I call balls and strikes.
With supplement, with doctors too? With pharmaceutical
With
companies?
doctors, with pharmaceutical companies, you just called out the opioid thing that you said, what was their punishment? You said
They
it's
gave up
$7
$7
billion.
billion.
I don't think that's enough. I think that there should be harsher punishments for those executives that were making
Did
those.
you make YouTube videos
Of
about
course,
it?
we
You
talk
did?
about it all the
Okay.
time.
I don't know enough about your
But
YouTube
no,
channel.
no,
If you did,
it's not
then
even about
thank you.
it. It's
Yeah.
a bigger issue. But it's about trying to figure out what the truth is by calling balls and strikes fair. So if we do something wrong in the healthcare industry, wrong, I will call it out. And medicine wants to call it out. There's definitely special interest groups. They need to be held accountable. But if you're going to do it sloppily, like how I believe Secretary Kennedy did, you're actually going to have more bad actors. He likes transparency, right? He said he wants to run on radical transparency. Can I tell you one thing that he did that's actually going to make things much less transparent?
Please do.
Every time HHS enacts a new policy since 1946, they had a period of waiting for public comment, for people who are stakeholders to talk about how this policy will impact them. Guess what Secretary Kennedy ended this year for the first time since 1946?
Do you know why he did it?
Yes.
Why?
I can quote you word for word why he did it.
Okay, so my understanding
No,
is
no,
that-
I'm going to read
okay.
it to you. It's not needed, and it's not very effective.
Okay, but
This is his quote.
the reason why he said that is because the industries were using that process to actually interfere with things.
Wait,
And
it's
that
public comment.
oh come on now, they can manipulate anything they want. The whole point of what he's doing in HHS is he's saying, here's how corporate capture is taking place, and here's how we get rid of it. That's all he's trying to do. If you look at what he did with like the FDA, he was saying things weren't centralized, they were ineffective, we don't need this much money, get rid of it. He's saying here's how the revolving door happens, on and on and on, all these things. So even if you don't like Secretary Kennedy in and of itself, you do agree with some of the things that he's...
I don't even go as far as saying I don't like him.
Okay.
I just think that when you cut $3.8 billion from HIV, maternal health research, ALS, when you cut the funding for mRNA vaccines that in the future can perhaps help treat one of our family members from having pancreatic cancer, prevent them from having pancreatic cancer, I think that's not someone I
But
want
we-
in charge of HHS.
Okay, but we just went over it. If everybody focuses on their lifestyle changes, we don't need that.
That's not true.
It is true.
Not everything in
It
health
is
is a
true.
lifestyle change issue.
If-
A lot of it is,
If
but not
your VO2 max is in the upper 2 percentile
You'll
for
still
your
get
age
sick.
group, your risk for all-cause mortality is next to nothing.
You
It
think people
literally
don't
doesn't
die?
matter. I'm not saying that they don't die, but they don't die from chronic disease is ultimately what it comes down to.
But do you believe in genetic diseases?
So genes have to be activated. The
Sure.
bad genes are activated by oxidative stress. Literally all disease is related to mitochondrial dysfunction. Okay?
Which Secretary Kennedy
Which-
says
which-
he can diagnose by
which is why VO2 max is so powerful. You are judging the respiratory exchange ratio, which is telling you if your body is using fat for substrate or if it's using sugar for substrate. You are then judging the lactate threshold. And if you use more fat for energy and your lactate threshold is further off, there is less oxidative stress in your body, which does not damage genes, which means that your likelihood for cancer and all-cause mortality is next to nothing.
But it's
That
not true.
It is true.
It's not true.
I can say
your risk goes
then
down.
you're telling me that Dr. Attia is full of shit. Dr. Attia.
I don't think Dr. Attia would agree with you. I think he would say VO2 max focusing on that will decrease someone's likelihood of dying from heart disease. It will improve
He's literally
biomarkers.
said it. Your risk is next to nothing. The whole point is that the current system that you are supporting, all right, quality of life goes up. We're in our 30s and our 40s, and it drastically starts to
I don't
drop.
think it should be that.
Okay, it shouldn't be that way. It should just be flat, and then all of a sudden we should just go straight
Well,
down.
I don't think quality of life should ever just go flat.
Well, no, I mean, like, so like my.
I actually think medicine, that's where it up. I think
Well, Dr. Attia has talked about the chart where if you look at the difference that drugs have made, it's at the very end of life. It doesn't actually extend life.
A lot of times, yeah.
If anything, there's like this much of a gap as far as improving
Morning,
quality of life at the end. So if you're really looking at the research, the drugs have done absolutely nothing. And the other thing that it does is it shields people.
You are incredibly sick.
Morning,
Acute
이게 어때?
versus chronic. When it comes to acutes, I will sit there and say, yes, we need doctors,
No,
yes, we need
여러
pharmaceuticals,
가지
right? But when it comes to chronic disease,
선생님께서 감독님께서 가르치는 거 아니라
VO2 max.
why are they
अनि अब निकै साढे 10 बजे
I don't know.
निस्किन्छ मतलब
Do
हामी
you
यहाँ
want
पर
something
हामीले
that
10 बजे
is
खाना पकाइसक्छ तर 10 बजीसम्म खाएर निस्किन सकिँदैन यस्तो छ भने त्यो माथि खाने के ल्याउनु कसो हो
People will need pharmaceuticals if they just think about their VO2
we
max.
have to make
Why
a
is it an
choice.
either or? Why can't it be both?
Okay, but here's the deal. We have so much money.
Sure.
We have unlimited funds.
Well, we can
So
separate it.
we need to make the decision. Are we going to continue to
Okay,
treat and enable, or are we going to prevent? Okay, if we start taking our money, we start putting it into prevention, things will
I love
change,
prevention.
things will happen.
You know what helps with prevention? Vaccines. You know what Secretary Kennedy doesn't support? Vaccines. Thank you. Love the colors. Yeah. Pleasure. Got some notes?
I do. It's not every day you get to sit down across from a doctor.
I mean, if your doctor is not spending time with you, I think you should look for a second opinion.
Perhaps so, but I'm a long ways away from you and you're unique. Okay, so my first question for you is, you spent years in med school.
Right.
You spent years practicing. What has been your chief goal?
To keep patients as healthy and happy and have the highest quality of life for as long as possible.
Okay, I think that's what everyone's looking for from the medical industry, and I did call it an industry. I'm not saying that that's you.
No, it is.
Okay,
Don't have to.
it's you. I think what's so important is that the time that you spent there, how much of it was spent trying to give your patients something that would prevent them from getting sick, rather than treating them after they've gotten sick. Okay, I love it.
When a patient comes in for their annual physical, it's funny to say, but I don't think annual physicals really exist. I think most people come in because they have a problem and then they
Yeah.
tack it on to
Yeah.
their annual physical. I think about what risks they face. So if someone has an elevated BMI, the best way to judge obesity, but there's a condition, and BMI number, I can calculate obesity. I will check certain blood variables to see if they have prediabetes.
Okay.
I will check their blood pressure. Essentially thinking about a form of primary prevention. Because the number one killer in America is heart disease.
Okay.
My goal is to decrease death, quality of life, and the way that I think about that is by preventing cardiovascular disease, which is heart attacks, strokes. The way that I can do that, the two biggest ones, outside of like getting them to stop bad habits of smoking, is lowering their blood pressure to a normal range, getting them to have healthier cholesterol numbers, getting them to have healthier sugar numbers when they're fasting.
Okay.
That is the biggest thing.
The biggest.
The biggest thing.
Okay.
In addition to thinking about those numbers, I also spend time focusing on their mental health, their sleep. Sometimes that requires doing a sleep study to see if they have sleep apnea, because a lot of people who have high blood pressure, they don't know why. It's because they have sleep apnea and they're not sleeping well.
Okay.
I think about lifestyle changes related to exercise. I incorporate aerobic training and resistance training, especially to those who are older than age 60, because by keeping your muscles strong, carrying weight on your body, you not only strengthen your muscles, which is a longevity organ, but also keeping your bones strong, especially for women. So a lot of what I do, probably the majority of what I do is focus on, and vaccines.
Okay, and vaccines.
And
Okay, let me ask you this. Why is it then you seem to be resistant to supplements when what we've said is that some people have a deficiency of magnesium or iron or many things? Why is it that it's usually a prescription that is chosen first over these things. And you said that supplements, it's, how did you say, a for-profit? Of course supplements are for-profit. Pharmacy is for-profit. But here's my issue. Diabetes makes a lot of money for a lot of people. Okay? Can we agree with that? Yes, it does.
Is that a bad thing?
Okay, here's the bad thing. Why are we just treating the symptoms of diabetes? Why is it there isn't pills that are being designed to cure the diabetes, but instead to keep us taking the pill for the rest of our lives with all the side effects? I want an industry that is maybe linked to the idea of good health, cure. Why are we treating people for a lifetime and never coming up with something? Metformin has never cured anyone of diabetes. Yet it's the #1 prescribed drug in America for diabetes. Hasn't cured anyone. Why isn't that the goal?
I think it is the goal. I just don't think we have the cure. And you know how we get the cure? Research knowledge. We're weaponizing all these words against Big Pharma, but we need them to create the cure. And look, I'll tell you what some conspiracy-minded people think, and I've thought it too myself. I think it's important to think about the other side. Is Big Pharma withholding cures because they want us to be subjugated to their medication and paying them more? Reasonable question, right?
Yeah.
I think about that myself. So pharmaceuticals for profit, they make a lot of money if they make a cure. Why would they not want to make a lot of money if they make a cure?
Because once the cure comes, then we're not a slave to the, right? We're no longer a slave to their pharmaceuticals.
I think the same.
Yeah.
You know what my next level of thought is? Do you think when we say Big Pharma, there's one pharmaceutical company or two pharmaceuticals?
No, there's
There's a lot.
There's a lot,
There are a lot of competition, right?
of course.
Wouldn't they be deathly afraid if one of their competitors created the cure,
Absolutely.
made billions and trillions
Yes.
of dollars on the cure,
Yes.
and they were left hanging?
Okay, let me show you an example. There was a bag company about 15 years ago. They made a bag that was so strong, no joke.
A bag?
It was a bag. It was so strong, it wouldn't rip, it wouldn't
Is this
tear.
an Hermes thing?
It was an amazing bag. I am telling you, it was an amazing bag. But guess
I
what?
know you're going to tell me about the Birkin right now.
They what? No, not at all. They went out of business because guess why? You only had to buy one. You only had to buy one. It lasted you the next 15 years. I think this is what's going on. These people are in it for the profit. That's why they rush to try to protect something, okay? So that way they can say, this belongs to us.
When you say
And
protect
it's,
something,
well, they do the research, they develop a pill, and they make certain that they are legally protected to be the only ones
For
to
a period of
manufacture
time.
that precisely. And the only reason that after that period has run out is because it's run out. And then other companies can do other drugs that,
and you know what's messed up about that whole process?
tell me.
That they, sometimes when their patent runs out,
Yes.
they do like a little shady
Right,
reformulation.
exactly.
I
Yes.
agree. I
Yes.
think that's shit.
It stinks.
I agree.
Yes.
And I call that out.
We're out of time.
Very well. Thank you.
I like you.
Yes,
I like
thank you. Thank you. My final surrounded claim is that Maha leadership cares less about health and more about money, power, and politics. Hello, hello. Nice to see you.
So I want to hear what your claim is.
Yeah, so I think if you care about health, you would put investment into research into finding cures, as we talked about earlier. You look into systemic ways to get the biggest bang for your buck in terms of improving people's lives. I think the Maha movement has said a lot of those things to get PR wins, but hasn't actually executed any of them. Instead, what has happened is we've seen a tremendous cut in these budgets that have been reserved for improving our health.
By the way, it wasn't RFK who did that. That was the Department of Government Efficiency. So that wasn't even him.
He's in charge of Health and Human Services, which is responsible for NIH,
And
FDA,
Doge was in
and
charge of cutting all federal agencies, and they were the one who made the cuts. So, like,
I agree with you.
right.
Where was RFK on television talking about how terrible it is?
He wasn't anywhere because a large portion of that funding wasn't necessarily going to what we thought it was going to. For example,
Let's say yes. Let's say that's the case. We don't even need to prove it.
Okay.
Did he redirect that funding to something better?
No,
He just cut it.
Yeah, right.
But
Because,
don't we need to invest
no,
more into
because
improving
I'll tell
people's
you why. Because we have so many conflicts of interest in the government, which I think you would agree, right?
Sure.
Part of your claim, and I think you made this earlier, was that RFK actually is like he doesn't have to report where his funding comes from, which is not true because the head of the HHS, the CDC, the NIH, they all any head of any federal government agency always has to report any of their financial backings, right? So they do have to report that. But if you look at one of the things that people were very upset about, for example, how the NIAC board, right? Familiar with that, where he cut so he cut I believe a lot of the members of the board there. And
the ACIP.
That's what I meant. Yeah.
The Advisory Committee for Immunization.
Exactly. Yeah. 70 to 80% of that board was not reporting enough of where their financial backing was coming from. So a lot of the backing that they're doing in those in that research isn't firstly necessarily going to where you think it's going. What makes you think that they care so much about money, power, and politics when he's not making any money from it? He's clearly being demonized by the media, and they haven't even put any regulations in place. The only thing that RFK has done in the 8 months he's been in office is the food guide regulation. Everything else has just been a recommendation. There's been no regulations that have been passed by the HHS.
Did you see the first Baja report that he put out?
I did not. Oh, it was in September, right?
No, it was earlier in the year, but it was a big report. He said, look, we're trying to make children healthier. And there were some valuable things. They were focusing on lifestyle changes. That's cool. 7 sources, fully made up, about research that was never done. When it reached out to the authors, that they listed their reasoning for why they were making certain I guarantee you those sources were fully made up. People reached out to the participants' names that were listed as authors, and they quote-unquote said, we never did that research, it does not exist.
Okay, what was in the report?
The report is dozens of pages long. But
what was it about?
About children's
health care. Did it publish any regulation? Was it just regulation?
No, the report was basically like a State of the Union report about what's happening with children's health. But isn't it frustrating or scary that the reasons why they're putting in certain recommendations in the report come from research that fully doesn't exist? And I'll tell you my theory about it, I can't prove it.
Okay, go ahead.
That they used AI to make those sources, and AI hallucinated those sources, which I've seen happen when I ask AI questions.
Okay.
So to me, I think it's really scary.
Are you talking about the report that talked about like
it's the Maha landmark report
1 in
that
30
they're
children
celebrating?
have autism? Because that's true.
I'm not arguing about individual claims.
Well, let's talk about that for a second.
Sure. I think more kids than ever before have been diagnosed with autism.
Okay, so why is that? And so let me just ask you this. Do you think that America is the most unhealthy nation in the world?
No.
Okay. That's
in the
why?
world?
Yeah. We spend the most unhealthy,
because
the
there's
most
countries
unhealthy,
that
the most
are,
highest rates
you
of
mean
chronic
from,
disease.
in terms of, you're comparing it probably to industrialized countries or like
Yes,
very wealthy
yes.
nations. But in the world,
We have the highest rates of chronic disease. Would you say that?
I think we're up there. Look,
Okay.
who cares about absolutes?
Right.
We're up there. We're not doing great.
Right.
Health-wise, we're terrible.
Okay.
In fact, a lot of the capitalistic stuff that got us so unhealthy, all this ultra-processed foods, we're now exporting to other countries and getting them sick and they're catching up.
Yeah, and I think that that's a problem. Why are you opposing the first figure in 60 years? You said that that's a problem.
Well,
So, hold on.
I'll answer your question.
Okay, go ahead.
This is good, yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause I don't think he is. And I don't think he's actually doing anything to oppose it. He's sitting at Steak and Shake and telling people about McDonald's, how they used to fry their fries in
Right.
beef tallow, and it was so much better.
They've been-
And then